Daily Gameface. I am Dr. Kim Lannon. I'm here and happy to be here, glitching and all. Lou's having a little bit of a morning problem because the video's glitching, so apologies. He can't help it. He's working with 1970s technology, in his words.
Been here for 40 minutes and get a notice 3 minutes before your show that maybe you should update Windows.
Oh, I'm glad you didn't do that, because then that would have made me mad.
That would have been 20 minutes, 40 minutes.
No, for you, it would have been 3 hours. So I'm glad that it's true.
It updates longer for me.
Well, the last time you did an update, remember, we couldn't do the show because I sat here for 2 hours. And
yeah.
So no, I'm glad. So, well, we're glitching. So if you're watching and you see me being like weird and glitchy, like I'm an old anime thing, like from like 1972, that's we won't call it a Lou issue. We'll just, whatever. So anyway, I'm happy to be here.
It's my responsibility, so it's my issue.
I know it is. You're an issue. You're an issue.
Yeah, I am an issue. More often than not, I am an issue.
So good morning. I've had, I'm excited because I've had the past, the year of you, which is the year of me. All the shows have been doing crack bang, like amazing.
They should. They're good.
And thank you so much. And getting good. Good Lord. I've gotten tons of really good feedback and lots of really interesting questions, and I don't know, just some good stuff, just like even making me think about like lots of interesting new directions for like, people want to call in and ask questions, and I'm always leery of that because, as we know, unfortunately, there's some we have to vet people before they can get through, and that takes work. Doesn't it take work?
It does. Yeah.
And sometimes, on shows like this, I like to know what's coming because.
So do I. Wouldn't that be great?
Well, I know what's coming when I'm just working with you, but that's a given. But it's the anomalies on the board that might call in or text in that I don't necessarily want to have to deal with, because in my field, I can just say, I'm getting ready and closer to writing my book, by the way.
Oh, somebody died? Oh, okay.
No, but I was realizing that in the topic of the show, that's the new transition show this week of the year of you, which is the year of me, that life is, you only have this one, there's no rehearsal, there's no anything. And so like, if you wait and you wait and you wait and you don't do, you can't do that, first of all, which that's an obvious thing. But also I realized in taking inventory of one of the reasons, besides waiting for people to die before I write the book, was that, it's because there's people that are, honestly, there's some people that are kind of dangerous out in the world of my field that would do nothing but love to hurt me. And I'm not saying that is like a weird thing. I'm just saying, like, in my field, in psychology and psychiatry, there's people that are unstable. And so when you write things, or you go online like this, like there's always the chance of people being weird. And I have some strange people that are lurking in the background, and I have, some dangerous people. So, and in writing a book, it opens that door more. But I also really keep being asked, like, you have so much to offer and you have so many things, like putting my podcast kind of thing down on paper and like getting it into like techniques and all those things. People want to hear that. So I'm like, okay, but they also want to hear sort of like my anecdotal, like bits and piece evidence of like my life and pieces. Because when I teach my classes at the college, I use real life examples of like my life and how it got there, of how to bring me to those pieces to get to know what I know and how I come to some of my own theories, along with real theory, as opposed to my theory, but, empirically validated theory. And so, but I just wanted to put it out there that the book is starting to come into some fruition, but one of the hesitancies is, and people are encouraging me despite that I realize it wasn't just like waiting for people to die. That is a good excuse, but it's the fact that I have some, some not so stable people out there, and
some valid concerns.
And when you don't have stable people around you and that listen and do not so nice things, and so that's actually a thing. So. And it's a lot more common than people would know, unless you're looking up the research or you're looking up like the things on that. Like, for instance, when you have someone that's a paranoid schizophrenic who's unmedicated, for instance, right?
Yep.
That raises, depending on the research you look at, it raises the likelihood of them if they've been a patient of yours, being a stalker from 9 to 16 years potentially before they can kind of let it go. And usually in that time, they do some really anomalous thing on the board that's usually very dangerous or very life-threatening to a person. So, there's that. So that sits in the back of my head. And so, there's that. But so I had to take a little soul search because people were really asking me over this past January, February into now from the shows going, you really just need to put some of this stuff in a book so that we can have reference and do a workbook and all this stuff. And I thought I could do that, but they want me to put it with some of these stories and all that. And it's in order to get to some of those stories, I have to put some backstory to it. And I don't want some of those people knowing those stories because it puts me in a weird position.
That's not theoretical fear. That's
actual fear.
Yeah.
Right. There's the bear in the back of the cave is real. So
I've seen the bear.
Yeah, I have seen the bear. So, but I am working on it. So I appreciate in the past few weeks, and I love that people are listening and loving it more from what I've been focusing on. But I will work on figuring out how to do at least some portion of a book that would give you what you're looking for here in the next year is my goal now, because I'm invested in what people are requesting. I'm just trying to figure out with a couple people that are writers and some also I have a friend that's a ghostwriter. He's not going to ghostwrite for me, but he's giving me tips on how to sort of navigate, for lack of better, his words, not mine, crazy people.
Yeah.
Who would like to hurt me.
So, you can also write now. You don't have to release now, but you can write now.
Right. But then it's not timely, right? Because things are always changing.
Yeah.
So yes, I could. So I'm jotting down. So I just wanted to put it out there because I'm hearing you. I'm listening to the requests over the past few weeks and very excited about the fact that I had that 3-part series show on narcissism and toxic people and navigating that. And then also the 2-part series the last 2 weeks that was on emotionally immature and fractured people and the whole thing about that. Good morning, Leanne. Leanne is one of my favorite people. She's up in Minnesota. She went and visited one of my favorite places this week called Furball Farm Sanctuary, where they have
Furball
Farm Sanctuary, where they have lots of cute little rescued baby, cats. Your least favorite thing, Lou. And she went and had
my least favorite thing.
Well, it's one of your least favorite things.
It's not my favorite thing. But...
So, nobody asked you. So
you brought me into this.
I know, but she went there and that made me happy. And she sent me a picture of one of my favorite cats from there. And I just love him. And not that I don't have enough of my own.
I was going to say.
But
adding to the house?
No, I'm not adding any more to the house. I am about to go back into, owning a wing of another hospital because I have some issues starting.
Yeah.
With my senile one, my one that can't breathe.
Good Lord.
So, hey, you go from almost 21 down to 17, down to 10, down to 8, down to 5 months old.
Wow.
It's like a menagerie.
Yep.
But I wouldn't change it for the world.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't. And I think that's one of the things that comes up, and not this show, and I'll get into that another time, is, when you have animals, I think it's just like anything. I mean, certain people in my life are having a hard time with the fact of why do we even have them? Because they're going to die. And why do you take on the responsibility? Because it's a lot. Well, because they fulfill your life. That's why.
Yeah.
So it's the trade-off of the fulfillment that you get because I try to keep my cats around for at least 20 plus years. So I get more fulfillment out of them. When you let a cat out and they go outside, they usually don't make it past 10. But I don't do that. And just as an aside, I started harness training this week on the 2 little ones.
Oh, God.
How'd
that go?
It actually went quite well in the respect that I got the harnesses on them and we didn't have any flopping over.
Win.
What?
That's a win.
We didn't have it. Well, they're very cool harnesses. Yeah. They're made specifically for this kind of thing. However, I have to adjust a shoulder strap on Ash, the boy, and he was doing this weird high step, and before I put the thing on, he did not want to go outside. As soon as I put the thing on, he still didn't want to go outside.
Yeah.
So I had to throw him outside. Of all the other cats, they all want to go outside. Yeah. This one's like, I'm not going outside. So it's very funny. So anyway, let's dive into the week.
That's an interesting consideration because I have it at times. I adore my dog. I just
I know.
adore him. But every once in a while, you have that thought, why am I doing this to myself?
Oh, you mean because you know he's going to die?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
because you know you're going to lose him at some point. And it's like, but that's.
But do you think about that about people? No.
Well, no.
I know, right? Good morning, Cassie.
'Cause-
Cassie's joining us from Florida.
Because I don't think I'm going to outlive anyone, but
Yes, she just said when you adopt a lot of at once, because eventually you run a senior center.
yeah, right.
Well, and that's the thing is the problem with mine is that I don't even know if it's a problem. They're spread out,
Yeah.
but I have 3 that are in a range that are in that range.
Yep.
And now I have a little and then littles. So then I've got 3 that are on the backside of. So I've got 3 that are in the range of. And then 3 that are coming.
But that's a generally interesting mental hygiene exercise, isn't it? Because when you spend your time focusing on the fact you're going to lose your pet,
which you shouldn't focus on that.
No, you shouldn't focus on that.
I don't focus on that.
Yeah, it's kind of a radical acceptance type of deal. But,
well, yeah.
But there are times when you feel that way, and I don't feel that way all the time, but there are times when you look at them and go, God.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What am I going to do without this dog?
Well, it's like when Echo, my oldest, right? She's my oldest and she's a Bengal. She's like laying on the bed last night on her entire heating blanket that covers the whole bed, because wherever she wants to sleep on a heating blanket, she can, because,
Yep.
She sleeps so deeply now at her age, because she's almost 21. She'll be 21 this summer, that sometimes I look at her and I'm like, is she dead? I'm like, is she dead? Because she breathes, and then I'll go to wake her up. Sometimes she'll wake up right away because I'll be like, Echo, and she'll be like, yeah, Mommy.
What?
And then, and then other
I'm
times she'll look at me. She won't look at me at all, and I'll have to shake her, and I'll shake her, and then finally I have to pick her up and put her on her feet, and all of a sudden she wakes up like, what are you doing to me? And I'm like, oh my God. Even though I can see her chest rising, I'm like, she's dead. She's dead. She's dead. And I much rather, I know this is like so off topic of what we were talking about and we're going to talk about today, but the heartbreak of watching that, I'd rather have them die in my home. This is so bizarre. I can't believe we're talking about this, but I'd rather have them die in their sleep. And all my cat people that are listening, you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that than have to do the whole decision-making process that I've had to do. That's awful. That is hard. That's the worst thing ever. It haunts me.
Well, we just got a pet insurance raise, a significant one.
I just did pet insurance for my 2 littles.
Yeah, it's good.
I can't do them on anyone else because they all pre-existing
So I was telling
conditions.
her that lack of pet insurance could put us in a brutal decision situation.
Right.
That you don't want to be in.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so I just got pet insurance for the 2 littles because they just turned 5 months. Thank God I did, because it already saved me $150.
Right.
I already got $150 back, like immediately within 24 hours. I was like, oh my God, this is unheard of. Yeah. I can't believe it. But it doesn't matter, because in 2 weeks, my third oldest cat has to have a rhinoscopy that's going to cost me $2,500. So anyone that wants to pitch into that GoFundMe page for the rhinoscopy for the cat that it can't breathe.
Your cat's getting a nose job?
She's not. She's getting a scope.
Oh, okay.
So she's getting a scope because we are treatment resistant to the antibiotics, because she can't breathe through her face. So last night I spent 10 minutes trying to cram up. She's not a pill taker, trying to cram a Zyrtec down her throat. And once I did, a half an hour later, she could breathe better.
Pets.
And she was less than pleased with me. But yeah, butter doesn't work. I can't trick her. Pill pockets don't work. She outsmarts me. And yeah, so, but I love them. So, wow, we got a lot of people chiming in. I can't read a stitch of what's going on because I don't have my glasses on. You tell me. I see everybody. I see Abby and Leanne.
Leanne and Abby and John are talking to each other.
I'm glad I can provide a forum for all of them to talk.
And Cassie says, so true about them sleeping more deeply when they get older. She's frequently scared.
Yeah.
Abby says, Soph, I love her. And John says they need helmets and pads. They're very exciting critters.
Oh, that's the 2 little ones, because they literally bang off the walls. They like run and slam into walls with their heads, and then the next thing you know, they're like, you're like, oh my God, there has to be brain damage, but then they're off to the races.
Send me a pic of you guys trying to put on
yeah, Cassie, I'll get John to try to put a helmet on one. We got the harnesses going, so the helmet.
But having the skill set of being to move out of that emphasis on you're going to lose your pet, that's an important. Again, I think it's tell on your mental hygiene and your ability to self-regulate.
Well, since I do this part of my living with veterinarians and sanctuaries and everybody that's listening that are cat people know that I do that, right? Like I have the skills to do it for other people. And then when I sat like with Mush last year, when we had the whole thing, and it came up yesterday because people were talking about it with me for whatever reason. And I was like, oh, the heartbreak. It's so, when you're in it, I can do it from afar. Like, well, I can sit and talk to Tammy, or when I used to talk to Carol years ago, or, to talk to any of the caretakers. But when it's your own, it's like,
Yeah, but when you're in it, you're in the moment. That's healthy. Dealing with the moment. It's sitting here going a few years from now, Well,
I'm coming up on 8 years with Kalila passing. She was my soul kitty. And when I think about it, I get the face burn. I get the heartbreak. I'm like, oh, my God.
Well, again, that's dealing with it kind of in real time. But it's about the idea you're sitting with a dog thinking 7 years from now, I'm going to lose him.
Yes.
And you can't dwell on that. Obviously, you're going to feel it while you're in the moment.
Yes, exactly.
Oh God!
Look at all that. I love this. Yes, I'm going to put them on their little leashes, and we're going to do mountain climbs. So, and John just said Echo sleeps like dead. That is true. She does. It's quite something. The only time I know that she's really, really alive is occasionally she'll do like this little foot twitch, and I'm like, oh, she's fine.
Yeah. She snore.
Sometimes.
One of our cats wheezes.
Sometimes
I think he's asthmatic.
Well, that's Sophie does. She's having a hard time. That's why we're doing the rhinoscopy. Yeah. So, because we'd like to have her breathe so that she can sleep, because she has a hard time sleeping because she hangs her head forward because she can't breathe. It's awful. Okay. So on to the show.
Yes.
The regular show.
Yes.
The topic of the day. The year of you, the year of Cassie, the year of Leanne, the year of Abby, the year of whoever's listening. Because I know there's other people out there that are not on the chat right now. But so this week, I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of habits to make your week go great. So that you have a weekly setup for success.
I like it.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. So one of the things I talk about is with people that have sleep problems is I talk about this one technique, but then I've realized over the past couple of years that I use it with a lot of people for just a general like rule of thumb. And so here's the first thing of like, if you start, say if you're going to start today, that's fine. It's Wednesday. Start your week today if you're going to start doing this. But hey, if not, start it on a Sunday. But I am a big brain dumper.
Yeah.
And brain dumping is a fabulous skill. It is not some new technologically wonderful technique that people just have never heard of. People call it different things. I just call it brain dumping. And a lot of people call it that. But I usually do it for people like have a brain dump before you go to sleep, because that's when people do their ruminating. That's when people do all their stuff. But what I've done is I've transitioned that over for people because people are so anxious in the past few years that brain dumping throughout the day. And what does brain dumping mean? Brain dumping means it's just releasing out on a piece of paper, or like I don't do paper because one piece of paper, because then I lose the pieces of paper. I try to keep it in a notebook because then I don't have 500 pieces of paper everywhere, which people do. I have one client that does that, and his car looks like a sticky note.
Oh God.
So, and he keeps saying, can you write that down? I'm like, no. No, I will not write it on another piece of paper.
Yep.
But doing a brain dump is really important. And a brain dump is when it is just randomly anything that comes into your mind at any given time of the day, and or while you get ready to go to bed, and then you're laying there and thinking, just take your notebook out and just start writing, got to pick up the dry cleaning, got to make dinner on Thursday night for friends, got to run to the store to get a birthday present, got to make sure I have that presentation ready for next Friday. Just whatever comes to mind. It's free form. It's not something technical for people that get very OCD about this. This is a great lesson in practice of this is not something to be perfect and structured. It's literally just dumping the stuff out of your head that's just there that you don't even realize is there, but it is. It's like those things that sit on the side. Like, I really want to clean out my closet. I really want to clean out that shoe closet. I really want to get rid of those things and put them into like the savers bin or whatever. but you might not do it. But if you brain dump it,
right.
Here's the benefit of brain dumping. And people are like, oh, why do I do that? Because when you get it off of your head and onto paper, your brain now knows that it's being contained somewhere else,
right.
And you don't have to contain it anymore. And what does that do? It frees you up from anxiety. It frees you up to regulate your polyvagal system, which is poly meaning multiple systems, right? Your polyvagal nerve that runs from your brain to your stomach, it's in your neck region, that allows you to regulate your emotional system and all of your autonomic nervous system, things like breathing and things that come automatically, and it keeps you healthy and functional, right? If you do not regulate that piece of you by doing a brain dump, for instance, which I think is one of the best techniques to start off like a healthy week, and I'll tell you why I do it at the beginning of a week. If you don't do that, you're already in dysregulation.
Mm-hmm.
Because what you're doing is you're carrying forward from day to day all the things that you want to do, you need to do, you think you should do, you wish you had done. And that could go back for years that are sitting on your brain. And it's amazing when you start brain dumping, and brain dump can look as writing, it can be doodles, it can be anything. I have people that do little scribbles in their book now. They'll come in and be like, I had this great idea of how I wanted to redecorate my bathroom. But that was a brain dump for them.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get to what happens with that after. It does not commit you to anything. It is just purely a release of all the things that you have running through your mind. And they could be as silly as, I need to pick up potatoes. I want to make a call to my best friend I haven't talked to in 2 weeks or a year. Right?
Yep.
It's just letting everything go out onto a piece of paper, and that's it. Now, so that's your first thing, right? Just getting it out there, just putting it all out there. If you do it at night, what it does is it releases you from the sleep anxiety disordered behavior that happens to a lot of people, which is the awakening during the nighttime, thinking about things, worrying about things, not being able to fall asleep. So that's where I originally started using it. I had a teenager many years ago that came to me for insomnia and she was 14, 15 years old, and she was ruminating and racing thoughts at night. And I said, we're going to do brain dumps every night. And after she did it for about 3 weeks, her sleep started getting better and better and better, because she started trusting that the piece of paper was holding all the thoughts that her brain didn't have to hold anymore. Now it freed up space. And so the freeing up of space in your mind, as I talk about with you, is the mental energy gets like recharged, and it's like, oh, this is a wonderful thing, right? So that leads to the next thing, unless we have a question about the brain dumping.
No.
Because I could go into further stuff about brain dumping, but it's pretty self-explanatory, even though people can mess it up because people overthink it.
Oh, of course.
But we don't need to overthink it. It's just free association and dump. Okay. So now we have freed up the brain. So now the next thing is, when you're setting up your good week, it's a great habit is freeing up your time now to now look at that list, 10 things, 100 things, 500 things, and just look at it and think, what are the things on there that are necessities, and what are the things that I want to do? Mm-hmm. Or what are the things that are realistic, or what are the things that are really just unrealistic? And I have a beautiful purple pen, and I have a pink pen, and I have a red pen.
Wow. Okay.
You do not have to complicate this like this, but I do, because it categorizes it for myself. So what I do is I take the red pen, and the red pen is the totally ridiculous, never going to happen in the next whatever period of time. Like that closet clean out, that might happen a year from now. Yep. So that's going to be a red line. That doesn't mean it's never going to happen and you're just taking off the list. It just means it's freeing you of the feeling committed to have it done.
The urgency
takes it off the table, because you've just been like, it's off. And then I use my other colored pens. Some people do it with like just a Sharpie or just a regular pen and just cross it off. It doesn't matter their color. I color code just because it keeps it in my mind of what is needed versus wanted. And that's very different. I need to make sure that I have my stuff ready for, like, I did a huge presentation last Friday morning for a Rotary Club on addiction, and talking about how to help a community as a whole, like between police departments, fire departments, resource people, community members, on how to do that. That was a necessity. I needed to have brain space for that, to be able to do that. So that was my favorite color, purple. So that was a purple, like, line, like that was going to happen. So that was a purple line through that. And then my pink one is kind of my wants. Like, I want to do that, but that doesn't mean, right now in my whole list, maybe say I have 100 things on the list, or let's say 10. I only have one purple line through, like the thing that I really need to do. And that's the only thing I really should be focusing on. That's it, because all the rest of the stuff isn't a necessity at this time. It's not
immediate.
It's not immediate. And so the difference between the want and need thing is really important there, because if you can free your mind from them being all muddied together, that frees you up. But you have to start with that brain dump or that mind dump first, so you can get it all out. So then you can free yourself up to say, oh my God, this is all bogging me down. And now I have to look at, what do I really need? And the freedom from that is like, oh, there's no commitment. Because the best thing about this is you don't have to do any of it. And people feel compelled to have to do the things that are on these lists, because it's not a to-do list. It is not, I have to do. And that's what people do. They make lists. I have to do. It's a to-do list. And then they check box 2 things and there's 50. And then they feel disappointed because they set up an expectation for themselves that they didn't get enough done, therefore berating themselves for not being good enough, doing enough. Look how poor that they did today. They're disappointing. They didn't meet expectation. And this is not true.
Instead of your mind carrying all these things around, it releases it to accomplish something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So so this goes back to, I have a client that last week we started off with the brain dump, and we got to a point where his purple line, as I would call it, his purple line was he just wanted to get to the gym. I may have mentioned him, right?
No,
I didn't mention him. It might have been in the class.
This is a great example.
So instead of, what people do is I need to go to the gym and I need to go there 5 times a week. That's an unnecessary and unreasonable goal for most people, especially if they haven't been in a while, but it's hanging heavy on them, but they want to go. It is literally like you brain dumped it. It's your priority. And if you'd like to do it and you put your purple line through and there you go, now we are going to circle that. And your priority is, you're going to go to the gym. Now, what does that look like? Now, that doesn't mean we go for 30 minutes. Human nature is that if you go, and you've heard me talk about this before, if you pull into the parking lot, and I've only had this happen to me once, and I told you about it a couple of years ago. I pulled in the parking lot, looked inside the gym and said, hell to the no, because there were way too many people.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm out. But if you pull in the parking lot, there's your first step. If you are a person that's really struggling to get to that spot, and your purple line is get to the gym, that literally, let's take it to the literal sense of let's get to the gym. Because the human nature side of us is that if we pull in the parking lot and stop, we're going in. And all the expectation is do 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And people, as you know, human beings go into 5 minutes. What's that going to do? And I always say 5 minutes is better than none.
Yep.
5 minutes is better than none. They're like, but that's ridiculous. It's not really going to the gym. I'm like, okay, it's a 0-sum game versus a 5-minute sum game.
Yep.
So they're like, okay. So with this person I had last week, 2 weeks ago, he didn't make it. He dropped it. He didn't make it. His purple line. And I told him, I said, it's not a commitment. It's just the one thing that is really, that's the thing.
Yep.
Right on your brain dump. The following week, because I didn't put any expectation on it, he texted me and said, I went. And he made it. And he did it for half an hour.
Yeah.
And he was so excited. And then, of course, he did the whole thing. He's like, but it wasn't enough. And I said, one day is enough. We're going to keep it at 1 day, because you might not make it 2. And that's okay.
That's the baby steps thing, right?
It's the baby steps. And it's also giving yourself like it's that radical acceptance of like, this is where I'm at. This is who I am. This is, Why put this extra pressure from wherever it's come from, wherever I've learned it from, to have to be the extraordinary over the top thing right out of the gate? Why can't I just start at the beginning?
You commit to yourself to going 5 times a week and you overwhelm yourself. It's not going to happen.
It's never going to happen.
I'm going to go today. I can go today.
Right, exactly.
And I can do 10 minutes. And then when you get there, you do half an hour, you do 40 minutes.
Exactly. And then there becomes
But you can accomplish that.
Right.
You can't accomplish going 5 times a week, not right out of the gate anyway.
Right. And if you miss it, if you get 3 out of the 5, you still miss it because you're going to judge that. You take the whole point of the brain dump and then the lines through is to free up your brain.
Yeah.
It's to really free up the space to get it going, to have that space to go, okay, I'm allowing myself to give myself latitude to be able to do this. I see lots of people chiming in. I can't read. Please help.
Chris is saying good morning, Doc.
Good morning, Chris.
John's being his military self.
What did he say?
Toughest part of going to the gym is just get the fuck up and go.
Oh, there we go.
No motivation, just discipline. Just get up and go.
Sorry for all the people that are listening in at the medical center that puts this through their thing that we just swore.
It's fine.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's an adult.
But again, it's easier to build motivation for I'm going to the gym today than it is I got to go 5 times a week.
Well, so that's why. So in your brain dump, you might put down I have to go 5 times a week, but that one's going to be the red line.
Yeah.
In my book, that's the red line.
Yep.
Right. Because for instance, I'm training for the marathon. Chris can appreciate this. Chris and I are both training for the marathon. 42 days. It's actually 41, but I'm giving myself an extra day in my mind. It's 42 days away, right, Chris? But it's, if we miss a day, and maybe Chris can speak to this for himself too. If I miss a day, like this morning, I missed my run because I was so tired from yesterday and I was so sore I did strength training on Monday and I did a really rough HIIT training run yesterday, like an interval run.
Yeah.
And this morning I was going to do an hour-long run and I was like, I'm so sore. I'm not doing it this morning. And 2 or 3 years ago when I was training for the marathon, I would have beat myself up. I can't believe it. My plan would have been that I'll squeeze it in. I'll cancel clients. I'll do it tonight at 10 o'clock. Nope. I've already made an adjustment in my head for it. I already know exactly what I'm doing. It relieved me of the stress of it because exactly what I'm telling to preach about this, I'm practicing that. My purple line is I'm going to get in some mobility and flexibility today for about 10 or 15 minutes in the office, and I'll pull the 5 miles tomorrow because I can. It doesn't matter that it didn't happen today. I can do it tomorrow, right? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't because it's not going to make that great of a difference. I don't know if Chris will agree with me, but that's how I go. That's how I roll. But it's about giving. Hello, Maureen. Good morning.
John makes me smile.
Oh, I'm so glad that John makes you smile. Maureen's down south too. Everybody's down in the warm weather.
This is the way,
for Leanne.
This is the way you get stuff done. You see so many people self-inflict problems because they're just overwhelming themselves at the beginning of. They're looking at the big picture and the big jobs. Right. It's like, well, just put this together today. Right. Do this. Accomplish this.
So now we've got the brain dump,
and that feels good, by the way.
Right. So we got the brain dump as our first step in the beginning of the week. Then we put in this, like, our scratch out, never going to happen this week. Not on the table. Then we're going to put in like the 1 or 2 things like, yep, those are whatever. But then we're going to make a third step. We're going to circle the number 1 thing on the daily that we want to really accomplish, that we really need. Now, the want one could be the fun thing, but there's usually one that we really need to do. And we're not going to do the 500 things. That's where it becomes now the to-do.
Right.
It was not a to-do list until it became, let's circle the one thing that we really want to do. Now, that doesn't mean it has to happen that day. What it means is, going back to my closet example, I want to clean my closet and I want to get rid of stuff. I'm going to set a date for myself. I'm going to make a date to myself and I'm going to schedule it in my scheduler that on Saturday, the 23rd, 22nd, I know, right? I'm going to spend 15 minutes. Now, you can do, it's either going to be 5 minutes or 15. I usually give people that are really struggling 5 minutes.
Yeah.
people who've got it a little bit more further down the kicking the can down the road and forward movement, we do 15. If you do 5 or 15 minutes, whichever one you pick, on that one thing, on that one day you commit to yourself, or if you say, I'm going to do 5 minutes every other day of just dumping something in the garbage from the closet, or taking one item and moving it out, you're going to be more accomplished because now you're not overwhelmed. I call it, you know how, have you ever seen the show Hoarders?
Yeah.
And you know how the hoarder walks into the house and they look, and you know, and how they present it, it's like looking at this whole house being like, oh my God, this
overwhelmed,
is so overwhelming.
Yep.
That's what people do in general. You don't have to have a hoarding house because your brain is a hoarding house. You hoard everything in your brain, right?
Yep.
Your brain is a hoarding house. So what I say is, stop hoarding. Don't worry about the hoarding. Stop worrying about that. Easier said than done, but it really is, because all you have to do is think of standing at the door, and you're going to open the door, and you're literally going to pick up the first piece of whatever's there, and you're going to either put it in the garbage, or you're going to put it in the recycle, or you're going to put it in a donate.
Stack a win.
And and that's it. That's all you have to do. The hoarding brain will get rid of its intensity and its wasted space takers if you do those little pieces at a time, because you've brain dumped, you've now put in motion what you can see, you've circled the thing you want to work on, and have given yourself the permission that this doesn't have to happen right now. What it has to do is, it can happen over a period of time.
Yep.
Right? It can happen over, I've been working, so the closet example, I've been working on my bedroom closet for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And I started off and I did probably 20 minutes. And then I looked at it and I was like, okay, I'm overwhelmed. I'm done. And then about 4 or 5 days later, I did a couple more things. And then in essence too, I'm not going to go into the whole story. I have misplaced something that's extremely expensive and very important to me, and I can't find it. So now I have more of an impetus, because now I know it's in the closet, and I have to methodically now go through everything to find this thing.
Weeks now this is taking you?
And well, I'm going on my 3rd week. So this past weekend, I spent about 3 hours in this closet to no avail looking for this thing. And then of course, John chimes in and says, I'll help you, which is never a help. So that's like adding like fuel to a fire. So, Men
mean well. We mean well.
Mm-hmm.
We want to help.
That's lovely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But it's because of, I have an extra added incentive now because I can't find this thing. But in the meantime, before I realized I couldn't find the thing, it was in the trying to clean the closet, I realized I couldn't find the thing, and that made me crazy.
Oh, I see.
That's what happened.
Yep.
It wasn't in an effort to do that initially. So but now we're at multiple hours. Now this weekend, I won't have time to do that. So this morning I did about 5 minutes. So I've been committed to just staying because it's easy. It's helping me stay out of the hoarding head.
Yeah.
It's keeping me out of the hoarding brain of like, okay, I did, because now I'm like, oh, I didn't have time to do that this morning. Yeah, I did. I went in there because I had to get something out for myself anyways to wear. And I literally picked a couple pieces of things that needed to be discarded into a donate bag, and they went into the donate bag.
Yep.
And when that donate bag is finished, that will go in the back of my car and it will go. So like, it's helping me in that way, but I don't feel compelled to have to sit down with like a whole overwhelming house and go through it, right? Because it's doing those little things. So we've gone from brain dump to designating like the things, then finding the one free space, the one thing we want to work on, making a date with ourselves, committing to it, and or doing it on a daily, but there is a committed date. There's going to be a date that I put out there in a couple of weeks that I have on my calendar that is going to be a full dump and clean. And that's it. So I've committed like an appointment to myself.
Yep.
But it doesn't have to happen today. And because I made a commitment and an appointment to it, then it's going to be like, I wouldn't miss a doctor's appointment. I wouldn't miss an appointment with like a business lunch. I wouldn't miss an appointment to come here. It's prioritizing that. and making it okay so that you're not pressured that it has to be right now. What we do is we say, oh my gosh, it has to happen. We have to do it now. And then we don't do it. Then we get discouraged and then we dump it. And then it goes back into the dump pile of, oh my gosh, it's overwhelming because we didn't do it. So it's really just allowing yourself to do this and having that freed up mind and freed up space.
And doing that turns it into a known, doesn't it?
Yes.
Takes it out of the unknown category, which is one of our main fears.
Yes. So now these are things that are just kind of like setting you up for a good week, like ethereally, right? So you get these things. Now we're going to have some more pragmatic things. 1, sleep. I've been talking about how important sleep is. Setting a sleep schedule. I have a terrible sleep schedule because I have a husband that stays up all night and eats. And I have no shame telling everyone that because it's a thing and it's just there. He between 12 and 6 a.m. it's like food bag time. And I've asked him to stop. He's working on it. And also I have a 21-year-old cat that keeps me up all night because she's senile and she starts crying at night. So my sleep schedule is a little wonky and I'm often exhausted. So when you have those kinds of constraints, what do you have to do? You have to adjust because, okay, that means go to bed earlier. Don't eat as late as you would typically to go to bed. Ask your spouse not to do those behaviors because they're keeping you up, right? And then try not to kill your cat. I have to just, it's a visual. If you're watching, I have to just say, there's my bedside table. She'll be screaming and it'll be like 1 o'clock in the morning and I'll have my hand and it will get numb. My whole arm will get numb because I'll put my hand across on the table and I'll just keep patting her until she stops.
Yep.
And then I'll stop because I'll fall back asleep. And then she starts going again and it wakes me back up.
Yep.
So this goes on all night. But right before I fall asleep.
It's so tempting because you have a pillow handy.
I'm not going to kill her. But right before I go to sleep,
she's
sleeping up until that point.
Yep.
As soon as I go to sleep, she starts.
Yep.
So, but sleep hygiene is really important. So
huge.
You have to be able to figure out how to adjust if you have. So I have some like third shifters. I have some swing shifters that I talk, to about how to do their sleep because they're off on it. They often take melatonin or they take a pharmaceutical but in general, sleep is where it starts for some pragmatic things is like, can you get some good sleep? Because we really need 7 to 8 hours of good sleep for our brain functioning, not to have an eye twitch like I'm having right now because I'm talking about it.
And that's not 7 to 8 hours in bed.
No, that's like I do. I just have 7 or 8 hours in bed. Doesn't mean I'm sleeping. Right. I have to just throw John under the bus. We came home the other night from dinner.
Because you enjoy it so much.
I do. Well, but this is, it's killing me. He made I call it a whole Christmas dinner. It started at 11:30 and by 1:30, the whole Christmas dinner was done. And I was up wide awake going, what is he eating? And the whole house smelled delicious, but it's 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
We can't do that. It's not acceptable or fair. John. I can handle the cat. John, I can't handle with that. So anyway, the sleep thing.
I have a 19-year-old bonus daughter.
Right, exactly.
I would keep saying kitchen closes at 10:30.
Yes, exactly.
And nobody pays attention. So.
Yes, well, see, but your bonus daughter isn't walking in and out of your bedroom eating.
Yeah.
So there's a difference.
Yeah. It's a small house, though.
I know. So the sleep thing is pragmatic. Okay, but what that leads into is the next thing is morning routine. I am encouraging you for your next habit for this week is 5 minutes of you time. 5 minutes of just you time.
Really?
Yes, really. What do you mean? Are you talking to me or are you talking to the people that are writing?
No, I'm talking to you.
Okay. So 5 minutes of you time. And that's not the only time
I'm not familiar with the concept, but
most people aren't. That's why I say it.
Yeah.
To have a good habit set up for a successful, accomplished week is 5 minutes of you time. We spend more time doing for others, thinking about how to do for others and doing like not anything for us. Now that is not taking a shower. That's something that we already do. That is not, any of the things that I'm sure people are thinking about. It's about just, and it's not scrolling on your phone. Let me be really clear about that. That is not you time. That's brainless, useless, dumbed down time. That is not you time. You time is when you are sitting with yourself and either being mindful, having an awareness moment of how you want to move your day forward. What is your forward movement of the day? What is your mood of the day that you want to set for yourself? Meditation for some people. Listening to people have a hard time meditating because a lot of people don't understand still to this day what really meditation is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make it easy for you. Put on a piece of your favorite music that's about 3 to 4 minutes long and just listen to it and do nothing else. There's you time. Let's start there.
Yep.
Like it's that basic. Let's just start there. It can be Metallica. It can be Tchaikovsky. I don't care. But as long as you do it without a distraction and you just sit with it and you sit with your feeling and how it makes you feel about the day, do that. That's an easy start, right? So 5 minutes of your morning is doing that. And if that's in the car and it's 5 minutes, that's totally fine. If it's in your house, totally fine, as long as it's just you. Now, you also need to build in somewhere in the middle of your day or somewhere in the day about 15 minutes for yourself of brain shut off time.
Yeah.
15 minutes. It's so important. 15 minutes of I build in now, and this is in the year of me, I have built in a 15-minute block one time a day. That's all, because my schedule. I find one 15-minute block where I literally do nothing and have and people get into like this crazy space of I'm not allowed to do nothing. That's unproductive. Nope, it's not, because you have to have 15 minutes of brain dead time. And it was a fight at the beginning because I was like, oh, but I really need to do billing, or I really need to mail that out, or I really need to run to the store. And it's the only time I have. Instead of doing that, I do the 15 minutes of I put on the Calm app and I listen to something, or I no scrolling, by the way. Phone has nothing to do with it, but the Calm app, but not to scroll on social media. No social media. And or going for a walk, going out and about and just being 15 minutes, just you time with no phone, no talking to anyone, no doing anything else, finding it somewhere, anytime during the day, even if it's closer to the end of your day, is doing that 15 minutes, right? It's free time. And that's such a weird concept because you know who has free time? Children have free time. And we don't, as adults, take the free time, but you need the free time because you need your brain to be less hoardy. You need your brain to be freed up. You need to have your brain dump be less intense so that your brain dump over time becomes less and less, right? They all kind of go together. It also makes sleep better, unless you have my issues.
Yeah, I need that before sleep. I need that buffer zone.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's so important. So you pick your time of day when you want to do that. And then it leads to the importance of prepping your week. So many people, I saw the funniest meme yesterday about meal prep. This guy said, I meal prep 14 meals for the week. They were all good and it's Sunday night. And he'd eaten them all. Okay, so meal prep is important, and people have a hard time with meal prep because, one, it's time consuming in people's minds. But here's the benefit of doing a meal prep. Meal prep doesn't have to mean that you're prepping all your meals and taking them with you. It means on every Wednesday night, for the most part, I go out to dinner with friends. This is what we do. We always do this. It just happens. So I know on Wednesday nights, my meal prep is set. I know exactly what I'm doing. I know exactly what I'm eating. Now, on the rest of the week, what happens is if you don't have an idea really of what's going to happen, are you eating at home? Are you cooking dinner? Are you having specific things? You're going to go into a grocery store like everybody else on a Saturday, Sunday. You're going to mindlessly buy stuff, which I have a dip that I wanted that was wonderfully delicious and vegan and all these things that I had these grand ideas. It's expired and it's been sitting there for probably 3 months and it's time to go. And I saw it this morning. I'm like, oh, I never ate that. What happens is we go in hungry And we go in and have these grand ideas. And then by the time we get to Tuesday night, we look at the fridge and go, I have nothing in there. I bought $300 worth of groceries, but I have nothing there to eat. But you do, because you just didn't do it efficiently.
Right.
So what's the meal prep? Are you going out this week a couple times? Those are meal preps, if you know. So you already know. If you're going to eat in, that's fine. You don't have to know that you're going to have lamb chops one night and chicken one night or whatever in terms of the specifics, but you just know that which night there's going to be one of those things, and that's what it's going to be.
Yeah.
So you're planning so that you don't have to feel like when you walk in the door at 7:00 at night, you're like, what are we eating?
Yeah.
And
so much chaos.
And it's chaos. And this is one part of my thing where, because I work late, and sometimes I won't have communicated, and John and I won't have communicated about, what's going to be for dinner. I'll walk in and be like, did you make dinner? And he'll be like, no. And so it's obviously an extra night that we're going to go out, or we're going to order in, which, right. When you do that, because you don't have a lot of options. We don't DoorDash because I'm not giving them money.
Yep.
And then, or you're limited to Italian sub stuff, which I don't eat that stuff, or Chinese food. Right. And there's only so many times a week you can eat Chinese food.
Yeah.
So I'm very encouraging of people to have like a meal prep. And one of the things, and this is one thing that we are good at, we'll make vats of pasta sauce that you can eat. That's just, you don't have to have pasta. You can have it because it's so rich and in terms of how much proteins in it and all. You can make a container of that, and you can take it to work with you all week and just take from that. And that can be a lunch. And you're not going to get bored of it. You might, but then change it out and bring a soup. So we make like a vat of soup, or we make a vat of sauce, or we make something that will last throughout the week, so that there's no need to have to worry about what else do we have. So I keep it in my fridge in my office, and I grab it, having yogurts or whatever, so that you have it. So you're not wondering, oh God, it's 3:00 in the afternoon, and what do I want? You have a banana there, you have your fruit, you have your mangoes, whatever it is, because you've prepped. And again, what has it done? It's building a habit to free up your mind from having to put out. It's people have plans, but they lack planning.
Yeah.
So you have to plan for it to be successful. And people get overwhelmed with that because they start too big. They think that they have to put 7 containers together that all have these little nooks and crannies and nuggets and all those things in. It's not that. It's just about planning, like, how's your week going to look, and trying to stay to that. Do you want to make a pot of sauce and take it for your week, or do a half week with sauce and a half week with soup, or, plan. Yep. And it's really not that hard when you make in bulk like that. Right. And it's pretty easy. Or if you're not a cook, I have 2 people that I've got doing this. They go and buy 2 or 3 containers of their favorite soup from their favorite vendor. I won't name it because they don't sponsor my show. I've decided that I'm not giving credit to people who do not sponsor my show. But they go and buy their favorite container of their soup and or their item that is pre-done, and they put it in their fridge, and they just bring it to work with them, or they have it in, like, I always bring it and just put it in at the beginning of the week, because if not, I'm notorious for leaving it in my fridge at home and then not bringing it, and then I'm stuck with my poor plan. So that is an important habit, because now you've got all these things that are freeing up your mind, and that's the goal, is to make your life easier and to give yourself mind space and mind energy, relief. And then the next piece in that is exercise. Is really, even though I talked about it as one of the things, but this is one piece, is finding literally 5 minutes to give yourself yoga, Pilates, stretching, walk up and down the stairs 10 times. Literally, it's just movement. It doesn't mean going to the gym. It's trying to give yourself some kind of shape of, just give yourself something, because what does it do? It frees yourself up from beating yourself up that you sat all day, that you didn't do anything. It's just about giving yourself something like that. Why is there this funky thing in the back of my head?
It's the Chromecast.
Okay. I just want to make sure.
Screensaver.
Okay. I just want to make sure you can see it.
Because that was another thing that went awry this morning.
Okay. Because that is not my backdrop.
No.
Okay. Okay. So I don't have to talk a lot about the exercise piece because I want to get to the last piece really quickly before we have to wrap up because it's so important. But when you exercise and you have the freedom from all these other things, the exercise becomes easier because you have the freedom in your space in your day, and it just happens, right? You can do it in your office. I have friends and I have colleagues and I have clients that have little mini weights now. They have bands. Some of them don't use it that are listening to my show because they tell me they don't, but they have them, or walk around your building once. I mean, it's so basic. It's just so basic. And what it does is it frees up your mind because a lot of times really good ideas and really good thoughts and really good things, which is what I'm hoping is that's what's going to happen to me to help me find that thing that's missing in my closet that I'm somehow going to either be like running. I thought for sure yesterday when I was running, it was going to come to me where I put it. But it didn't. I think I'm trying too hard. But that's important. Now, the last thing I would say is, so Harvard has done a great study. And then also there's a study out of the University of Australia that has come out. And it's an ongoing study that's been going on for the better part of 80 plus years and I teach about this in my class, the role of being connected to people. Of all the things I've said today, of like the habits you have, isolation is emotional death.
Yeah.
Loneliness, being neglected, feeling like you lack connection with people, even if you live with them in a house, is so damaging. You don't have to live. So if you're single and you live alone, that's not the same thing. I'm talking about you must make connections in your week. Weeks can go by and you don't even realize you haven't had connection with someone, even if you live with people. So great example, like when I go to my favorite places and I have my place up north, I'll spend that time, that hour and a half drive, even though I have drop zones, I'll make sure I call people to catch up with them, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes. I owe a call to someone in Florida right now. She's listening and you know how busy I've been. So here's my excuse. God, forgive me. And I love you dearly. I know you're listening and I know you hear me. I'm going to be driving this week. I will probably try to do that call because I know that that's on my front load dump list.
That's a purple line.
That's my purple line with my circle is that's coming because I have to do that because I missed that call. I missed talking to that person and we haven't caught up in a while. And we usually talk every couple of weeks and we haven't. So that's on that list. She's probably like, oh, is it me? So, but it is. So, but find connection. Go, if you haven't been out for coffee with someone or you haven't been to dinner, like I get my connection time on Wednesday nights with people, but that's not all my people. Like I have a whole bunch of people. So it's about making sure that you get your connections in. Now, is that going to a yoga class with someone? Is that going for a run with someone? Is that going to lunch with someone? Is that going to dinner? Is that going to a movie with someone? Is that going out for drinks with someone? Whatever it is, make a commitment to yourself that on a weekly basis, that outside of your home, for one, you're making connections with people to catch up and have your emotional connection and relating, and also within your home, making sure that you have connection, because people time and again say how lonely they are at home because they're neglected, because people don't pay attention to them.
Yep.
Right. And that is huge. You can get a lot of connection from outside and that's great, but we know it's not as fulfilling as if you don't have the connection. You have to have the connection in both spaces. You need your connection to your people out here, but if you don't have it in your home, it's very lonely. And so it completes your week. It completes your habitual week that I'm giving you of all the different things that make up the week, is making sure that you connect with people, make a plan. If it's a call, if it's a check-in for 5 minutes, it's your hot 5 minutes, right? Just make your 5 minutes. Make all these things in 5 minutes, because what it's going to feel like is it frees you up from the burdens you put on yourself, from missing doing the things that you feel obligated to, that are not obligations, because they become that way, because they become so heavy-hearted and guilt-ridden because you haven't done them for yourself and for others. But it's about taking care of you and habituating for yourself over a whole week and setting yourself up on a weekly basis. Now, today's Wednesday, and if people want to start that today, do Wednesday to Wednesday. Some people like to do Sunday to Sunday. I'm always of the mind, as you know, especially in the year of you and the year of me, you don't have to wait till a specific date. You just start now. So start today. Start with that today. There's no reason. You can always reset it and start it on, if you feel like Sunday's your day, but at least do Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then just reset on Sunday. But at least start practicing and getting yourself in the mode. But take all those things and just start doing them. On days when you're stressed, here's a good sign. If you know all those things I just said, and you have them all on, I call the wellness wheel, and you put them all and you track them on a wheel, and you put the spokes and you put each of those little things in. On any given day that one or two of those things are off, those are the things you should be adding in to make yourself feel more fulfilled. And if you're counting on other people to do them for you, and like the connection thing, you do need to have someone reciprocating. That's what therapy sometimes is for, to get someone to be involved, because sometimes people check out on you. Mm-hmm. And you have to figure out, is that person going to be good for me or not? And do I want that person or connection there? But make your wellness wheel of all the things I talked about, and track to see, are all things functional and on fire today? Or if they're not, make sure you're hitting those cylinders to make sure you get them in. You might not be perfect, but the more you have them all going, your habits, your week, your mental energy, your relief of your system is going to be so much more present, and you're going to have just a more successful week and daily, and your motivation, because you're moving forward.
Yep.
It's not a backwards stuck thing. It's always about, I moved forward today. I kicked the can down the road. I kicked the can down the road. I kicked the can down the road.
Stack the win.
Right. Stack the win. So you can call it your weekly habits. You can call, you pick them, the ones that work for you. Some people do 5 of them. Some people do 7 or 10 of them. Don't overwhelm yourself. I gave you the tenets that I do in my life. That's what I try to do to just hit my marks. My wellness wheel is wobbly on occasion, and when it's wobbly, think of a bike not being able to go down the road straight. You got to look at your wellness wheel and see what's wobbly on that, and try to fix it. My book, my damn book, is on it makes my wheel wobbly. But when I don't put a purple line through it, I don't circle it, and I just say it's a brain dump, it's out there, it makes it easier.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. But clearly I'm thinking more and more about it. All right. So did I miss any?
I think that was a good list. Great place to start.
Leanne said Sleepy Cat Podcast. I don't know what that is.
We should do one. Sleepy Cat Podcast.
What is it?
I don't know.
Get a cozy band and listen to meditation. Game changer. Yes. And a good eye mask. I need a dark room. There you go. Oh, Sleepy Cat Podcast. Oh, so maybe that is a podcast that she listens to. Kate came late. That's because you're in school. Oh, and Maureen apparently is talking about making etouffee for John down south.
Yeah,
that's great. I'm so glad that everyone's there. Okay. All right. So will everybody? So. For people that are still here listening, for the fact that Chris is running, Chris is still raising money. I am too, but Chris is raising money and he still needs extra help. If you go to Chris Diorio's page that I can give you, I would love to be able to help him raise more money towards he's declared it as his last run of the Boston Marathon this year, that he's going to do, but he's raising money for a great charity. And if you want to donate $5 or $10 towards that, He's also giving away Coldplay tickets
nice.
for the summer. So I can put that up sometime today in the link. But thanks everybody for listening. And I love that you're here, and I love that you're loving the shows. And it gives me more excitement for each week to bring you more good material. So thank you so much. And peace out. See you next week.